Welcome to The Locker Room, the podcast that delivers practical coaching advice you can implement today. Whether you're a coach, instructor, or educator, we bring you real stories and actionable tips from experts in the field. Each episode explores key lessons from their careers to help you elevate your own coaching. We always wrap up by asking, if you could go back to your first day as a coach, what advice would you give yourself? Let's dive in. So on today's episode, we have Hannah Bryans. Welcome, Hannah.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Hello. No worries. So we know each other very well. Obviously, we work together. I've known each other for a very, very long time. But if you could just give a brief intro on who you are and what you do in the world of coaching.
Yeah, of course. So my name is Hannah. I live and work here in Zermatt. I am a BASI Level 4 qualified ski instructor, and I'm also the ski product owner at BASI. So I work on sort of development of ski instructor training and qualifications across the ski pathway. I'm also the founder and director of Connect Snowsports, which is a ski school and summer camp business here in Zermatt. I have a bit of a mixed background. So I grew up between London and Zurich. I have a philosophy, politics and economics degree from Warwick University, but I've been in this ski instructing and coaching industry for the last 17 years.
Good. So we work together in Connect, which I'm sure people might know or might not know. So you grew up in Zurich, you said, and you got a degree from Warwick, and now you run some ski schools and run ski schools in Zermatt and work with BASI. So obviously you're British as well, so you grew up for a lot of time in the UK.
Mm-hmm.
So you're how old?
10.
10? So then from 10 I've lived in Switzerland.
More or
How
less,
has that helped when it comes to kind of coaching and leadership? Because we have very international folk as well in Zermatt.
I think growing up abroad, or in Zurich in particular, gave me quite a good appreciation for sort of structure and precision. And then it also obviously introduced me to more of like a multilingual and multicultural ways of communicating in societies. And then I think studying PPE as well at Warwick kind of lent itself to that. So it really pushed me to think like critically across disciplines, looking at how they link to each other. So again, just being a bit more open-minded, I suppose. And I think a lot of those tools that I got from both growing up in Zurich and from university sort of underpin how I coach now.
So you said they're BASI Level 4 ISTD. So what does that represent in terms of skill or mindset, teaching philosophy? What's the BASI Level 4 ISTD about?
Well, yeah, it's our highest qualification in the British system, and it's not just a measure of like your technical ability. It's a lot to do with depth of understanding, self-awareness, and then of course your ability to develop others. And I think you mentioned mindset just then, and a level 4 ski instructor's mindset definitely demands. Yeah, one of the demands is one of ownership and self-aware and curious as well. So it's not just kind of a paint by numbers approach, but we're looking for a much broader kind of teaching toolbox that requires a lot of empathy and adaptability. You're not just like delivering a product, but you're shaping that person. And also as a level 4, you've got a lot of input in the culture of the profession in general and on a whole.
So in your role then as ski product owner for BASI, what's your vision for the next generation of ski instructor training, and how do you balance kind of what you've done in the past, like tradition, with then, I guess, innovation for the future?
It's a good question. I think it's really important to try and like cultivate ski instructors who aren't just good at skiing, but who are really reflective and blend those strong skiing skills with critical thinking and people skills as well. I think it's definitely possible to like honor the like craft of ski teaching and where it's come from, whilst also embedding a bit more like flexibility, inclusivity, and even cross-disciplinary insight as well.
So you helped phase in the new kind of professional development portfolio, or PDP, is that right?
Yes.
Yeah. And how that plays a role in the level 4, is that correct? In part of the level 4?
Yeah, it's replaced the written project.
Okay. So why did that happen, and what's the PDP for?
Well, I should first start by saying that this was predominantly Leslie Page, yeah, she was definitely the like mastermind behind this. So I just mostly helped with a little bit of the ideas at the beginning, and then the more sort of practical like implementation of the project. But the actual body of the project was Leslie's work. It's literally a portfolio of your development. It's a way in which you can highlight and you can showcase your work as a ski instructor, and drawing on the sort of the practical work that the ski instructor does. We're asking them in this portfolio, we're asking them to make links between all of their lessons and all of their reflections on their lessons, and draw out some common themes between their lessons. And those common themes essentially make up your own personal teaching philosophy. And that's what the PDP is. It's just a chance for you as an instructor to reflect on the teaching that you've done, and to put pen to paper, or in whatever format you want, to reflect on what you've done and to showcase your own personal teaching philosophies and teaching styles and teaching techniques.
So you said there you were the director of a school in Zermatt. You also ran another ski school in Zermatt for many, many years. And then also about the summer camps, obviously, as well. Often they're different people or different teams that you work with in different seasons. So what have you learned over the years, I guess, from managing seasonal teams, people that you really need to hang around with for 6 months? Some people come in for 6 months, some people are here for many years. What have you learned? Any coaching lessons or management lessons from them?
Well, yeah, I've definitely been managing teams for a while. So I started the summer camps business, actually started in 2012 or 13. So I was like 24 or 25 managing my first team. So I've learned a lot since then, and I've definitely changed a lot. Like year on year, I'll reflect on how I've managed the team and what success looks like when you're managing a team, and then I'll try to draw out the positives and work hard on those, and then maybe reflect on a few ways in which I can change. I think in general I really try to like balance both sides of it, and I try to lead with intention, but balancing like the emotional, intelligent side of things with like more focused, strategic clarity. You need to have both. You need to demonstrate that you're capable of managing a business, but also managing the people on the team. And in terms of the seasonal aspect that you mentioned, yeah, like things move quickly when you're working seasonally. When you've got a summer team and a winter team, so you tend to lead quite quickly and quite clearly. Things like trust and clarity are non-negotiables. It's not like you've got the full 6 months to sort of build the rapport. We do more so in the winter because our team come back every year, but it's you need to get straight into it so that everyone feels like they're part of a really strong team really early on. Because you know what it's like teaching skiing. You start the winter in 1st of December, and then the 2.5 weeks later, you're in one of your busiest weeks of the year. So you've got to really hit the ground running.
What you just said then about reflecting after each season, what's your process when it comes to reflection?
I think about, on a really basic level, I think about like what went well within the team. So this isn't necessarily in the delivery of the product. This is in the team bonding and how cohesive the team felt, how happy the team felt, and things like that. And I'll reflect on what went well, and I'll think about what my contributions were to that. And then equally I'll think about if there were any lulls in the winter, or if there were any issues in the team, if anyone was upset at any point. And then I think about what I could have done to prevent that. And some of those practical strategies of team building that you mentioned just then. I suppose it's remembering that like leading the team it's continuous. So it starts before the season, and it's there in the big decisions. It's there in the big things that you do, but it's also there in like every small interaction you have with every team member. And so, yeah, I think in that, I think a big thing is just being present and being there and being available for the team, so that they know that you're in it with them. You're part of the team. It's not like us and them, but it's us all together. I think setting really clear expectations is really important, because I have quite high expectations, but I make them really clear, and I make them achievable as well. But my team know that they're really high expectations, but they know what they are, so it's not a surprise, and we all know how to do it. I also think consistency is really important. Everyone loves consistency. Everyone thrives under consistency. That's just quite a common sort of trait of like in human nature. And then I think finally, I think it's really important to, like when leading the teams, to empower each person and empower them with purpose. So figure out, what they want, what they're good at, what they want to achieve, and then help them do that.
When it comes to you running BASI courses as well, you run all of the levels from level 1 through to level 4. So are there anything that you see, like for example, on the teaching side, when you help coach level 1 instructors on beginning their journey, but then also you do see it creep in at the level 4 standard as well? Are there any commonalities between the two?
Yeah, I suppose if we're talking about the teaching side of things, then something that's common from a level 1 instructor up to a level 4 instructor would be the ability to like individualize their teaching and adapt to the learner that they've got standing in front of them, rather than teaching like something that they want to teach or that they think might be a good idea to teach, but really adapting and teaching who's standing in front of them. And then I think as well, like again, for any level 1 to 4, having the ability to ask good questions. So not just always having the answer yourself and telling your learner what you want them to do, what you want them to think, what you want to feel, but asking the right questions, being curious, asking more, and talking less to really get the learner involved in their own journey.
You said before about the PDP, and then it talks a lot about reflecting and people becoming reflective and adaptable educators. So when you're mentoring future trainers and examiners, so people that have come through the level 4 and then become BASI examiners, how do you help them grow beyond technical capability to become more effective, adaptable educators?
How do I help them grow beyond technical skill? Well, I think it's really important to zoom out. So I try to really challenge them to take a step back and to look at the whole picture. The technical knowledge is really just the the surface level stuff. It's the like entry ticket, and then a lot of the growth comes in learning to read people for people, to sort of self-assess and to really adapt under pressure. I think, real-time reflection, I try to encourage that, and like meaningful feedback dialogues as well. So again, as I said before, not just like me giving information, but asking questions and having a dialogue and figuring it out between us. So it's not just about like what happened, but it's about why it happened, why it mattered. Yeah, like zooming out and looking at the big picture.
So between winter in ski schools and then summer camps, how do you maintain consistency when it comes to training the leadership approach? And what strategies do you use kind of to transfer winter learning into summer team development?
So my leadership values, I don't think change from season to season. I think they stay pretty constant. Things I mentioned before, like clarity and consistency, accountability and compassion. But then there is a big difference between what we do in the winter and the summer. So I think the way that I deliver them adapts. So in the summer camps, for example, we lean more into like play and creativity, and they're really child-centered, of course. Whereas with the ski school, I focus more on the instructor development, performance, and the client experience. So they're quite different wavelengths. And then again, but like I said, after each season, we still do reflect on the season, and we extract anything that's like any transferable insights but from season to season, and we really try to use those to evolve and not just like repeat our process, but to grow year on year.
But what's one insightful piece of advice you'd give to coaches or leaders who want to build a cohesive, kind of high-performing team, whether it's in snow in schools or within like an organizational structure?
Yeah, I think that's a really good question, and it's actually something that I have that's come up when I've reflected on what I could have done better, and so that piece of advice I'd say is like don't assume alignment between the people in your team. Alignment is something that's really got to be built, and even if you hire the best of the best, you've still got to spend time like setting expectations, clarifying all your shared values, expectations and goals, making sure everyone's really on the same page. And then once you've clarified and you've got everyone on the same page, then they've got to be reinforced regularly in action and not just in words. Really, really good teams are built purposefully, and they're built through like deliberate design of team culture and follow through of that design as well. And they're not just built on accident. And as I said, so you can't just assume alignment within your team. It's got to be built.
So with that, you mentioned this before, but you have a PGC as well. You're a qualified high school teacher. So with that then, is there anything you noticed when you did that, teaching in high schools or teaching maths in schools? Any teaching things that you found were the same, or anything really, really different between like on snow coaching and then in classroom teaching?
Yeah, I can totally see how there's a lot of transferable skills and values and things and leadership skills between what we do and classroom teaching. But I only did it for a year, and so I felt like I wanted to cultivate this like classroom culture and this team culture, and I wanted to get everyone on side, and I wanted us all to go on the same journey together. But in reality, when you've got a group of kids and you don't have them for very long, you need time to build that rapport with them. You need time to get them on side, and I didn't have that time, so I felt very much like I was just firefighting. But it still did teach me some things, and there's definitely things that are similar and are transferable. So I'd say classroom taught me the value of things like lesson planning, pacing, and emotional regulation, I'd say as well. And then in terms of reading people, it really helped me. It helped like hone skills such as reading like the emotional state of the room when they shift gears and when I need to shift gears, and it helped me make more like complex ideas a bit more digestible as well, and all of those skills completely cross over into ski teaching. But there's a lot to be learned in the classroom for sure.
So like you just mentioned, when you have noticed that there's a gear shift needed in the room, what are some things that you can do to help match that? And what goes through your head when you see that happen in front of you?
You see that a lot in coaching instructors for any level of exams, really, whether they're training for their level 2, their 3, or their level 4. Depending on where they are in their training journey, if they're in the final few weeks, in the final run up to an exam, their like emotional state is quite different to when they're at the beginning of the season and they're laying the foundations. So I think quite a tricky group to manage is when you've got a group of instructors who are in different stages to each other. So you might have some who are like in the final exam prep stages, and then you've got some who are like just doing that week as a bit of a refresher, and then you've got some who are just training for the sake of training. And being able to adapt what you're giving each of those different types of people to make sure that they all feel seen, I suppose, and they all get something practical out of the session can be quite tricky. And flexibility isn't just like a nice thing that you should be able to do in situations like that. It's necessary. Building different feedback formats into one same session to cater for different emotional states is necessary to allow each of those people to properly access learning.
So can you think of a time then when coaching instructors, like you mentioned before, sometimes before an exam, their emotional state is a little different to the start of the season. So there is a time where a student or an athlete was struggling to make progress. And how did you use like a specific coaching technique to help you overcome that challenge?
Yeah, okay. Well, so I had a trainee once who had failed like quite a few exams repeatedly. So we really broke it down, and we focused on one habit at a time. And I gave them really direct, like high accountability feedback for that habit we were working on, and followed it up with a coaching plan that we like both agreed on together. So I got them to really buy in to that coaching plan and buy into that direction that they needed to take. Because they bought into it, they were able to like target each small habit at a time, rather than getting bogged down and focusing on like the big picture, which is quite often what people want to do if they're like failing long turns or short turns. They'll just like do 1,000 long turns over and over again. But we broke it down, and we isolated like the individual habits and the individual like movement patterns that we needed to change. And then they went away and they like worked on each one of those individually and eventually got better. But I think the positive outcome of that feedback was not that they got better. They did get better at skiing, but the reason they got better was because they believed in the direction that they were going in. So they really bought into the training, to the coaching plan that we decided was right for them.
So you just mentioned then with that student had failed a lot of exams before. So when you have new instructors that become examiners that have never been in that position before of how to deliver, a pass or fail result, it can be quite an emotionally charged thing. How would you coach somebody going through that process, like learning how to pass somebody or fail somebody through a course?
Well, I think the first thing that I'd say is if you've done everything right beforehand, then it's not as difficult as it seems. It's obviously never pleasant to fail someone, but it should never be a surprise. Before you get to that stage where you're delivering a result, if you've managed their expectations, if you've been clear and consistent with like the criteria and what you want to see and what their feedback is, then the result shouldn't be a surprise. And if the result isn't a surprise, then it's much easier to deliver if it's not going to be a positive one.
So when it comes to teaching or coaching skiing, it's a very technical sport, but there's a big kind of psychological aspect or mental side to it as well, or there can be, when it comes to learning the sport. So how do you kind of balance the technical aspects of coaching with the psychological or mental side of learning the sport?
How do I balance them? Well, yeah, first of all, I don't think you can separate them. I think things like confidence and identity and mindset, they show up when you ski. So I would say I balance this by trying to include like mental wins alongside the technical ones as well. So for example, if we're looking to improve, I don't know, edge grip, then I'll also try to reference and track like how it feels and if it unlocked anything like psychologically as well. The confidence is a skill as much as anything else. So it's also something that can be coached. So yeah, I don't think they're separate. I think it's important to balance them together.
Confidence is a skill that it can be developed. Are there any other ways you found over the years that you can help develop the skill of confidence within the people that you're coaching or managing?
Yeah. Well, I think it's really hard because I think a lot of us assume that like we'll get more confident and we'll gain more confidence from like external validation, but really it comes from like internal validation. So where I can, if I'm running a training session in a strand that is particularly psychologically taxing for the people in the group, whether it's like really big bumps or really icy steep terrain and we're trying to carve down it, I do try to encourage the individuals in my group to set themselves up for success by making sure that their mindset is in the right place before they set off. And I try to get them to figure out what that means to them as the individual. So it might mean that they need to like be really quiet and be really calm and do some like deep breathing or something like that. Or it might be that they need to say some really like positive words of affirmation to themselves, like in their heads or even out loud. I try to encourage, try to build confidence from within. But I do appreciate that sometimes that is helped by, positive feedback from an external source as well. I think that, that's me giving positive feedback when I'm running training has its place. It's not the only way to build confidence, but that has its place as well.
So you went to Levy, which is in interski. So for those listening that don't know what that is, could you give us, please, a brief description on what interski is and maybe a highlight that you had from being there and represented BASI?
Interski is a big meeting or a meeting's not the right word. It's like a congress, I think they call it, don't they? Yeah. Lots of different instructing associations from around the world, all the different members of the ISIA. There's two sides of it. So we have like the demonstration side of things where each nation demonstrates their technical capabilities in various different demonstrations. They have like the synchro skiing, and then they also have the technical demos where they just demo the types of turns that they want to do. And then there's also on snow workshops, where all of the different nations share their knowledge and run various different workshops that you can sign up to. And there's off snow lectures as well. It's all about like knowledge and information sharing. And a highlight, I suppose, was with one of the like evening demonstrations that we did. So like we were all in like this pen at the top of the slope, and there was like hundreds of people up there, all the different teams, and we had our like running order, and it was dark and the music was really loud, and there was loads of people at the bottom, and then we had to get in our little formation and set off and do our turns for however many seconds. And that was definitely a highlight. It's quite stressful. Like I think I was one of the skiers at the back, and so our job is just to like match the pace and rhythm of the people in front. And I was just really aware that if I fell, it'd be just sort of on the internet forever. Right. And it's harder than you think going at the back, actually, because you can't really see where you're going. You have a lot of spray from the skiers in front of you. So sometimes you're just carving blind, and you just have to hope that when eventually you do see again, there's not going to be someone in your path.
What about when it comes to the like sharing of ideas? You said you ran like how you did it. You ran it in pairs, is that right? When you did the on snow lectures?
Yeah, we ran a couple of on snow sessions that were really good and went down really well. So there was one that was really, really well attended was our on snow session where we basically took everyone through our level 4 standards. That was really, really well attended, and that was a really interesting one to run because it was, really high paced and we were skiing all at our level.
Okay, so one last question. What would be some advice that you would give to a young Hannah when she's first starting off her teaching and coaching career?
I am basing this entirely off of the very first lesson that I taught, which I'll never forget because it went just horribly. So I would say that less is more, and I would say to trust myself.
Yeah.
So less is more. So don't overwhelm your learner with 4, 5, 6 things to think about. Think about those 4, 5, or 6 things they need to learn, then prioritize them in your head, and then work on them one at a time with your learner. So start for the most important thing, and then really work on that until either they're clearly bored or they've mastered it, and then move on to something else. And then trust yourself. Yeah, just remember that you're the one with the qualification, you're the one with the experience, and you've got a lot to give. You've got stuff to give, and even if you do happen to be teaching someone who is more experienced than you, whether that's just like by age, but if you are teaching someone that does have experience, you've still got a lot to give, and what you have to say is still important.
Thank you very much, Hannah, for this chat.
You're welcome.
I know we didn't touch on everything, but we'll maybe do this again in the future.
Yeah. Thank you for having me.